So the next thing we'll do in step 11 is add a main method to this class shell. A method is just a self-contained reusable piece of Java code or a container for Java instructions. And the main method is a special one that's required in any Java application. So what we'll do is we'll indent by 4 spaces here, and we'll go public static void main. Main is the name of our method, and inside parentheses string open close square bracket args closing parenthesis. And again, a method is a container, so it's going to have an open and a closing curly brace. And notice how we've got this entire main method indented within this outer class container by a consistent 4 spaces. This will be a practice we'll always be doing at every level. Inside every pair of braces, all the code is indented by some consistent amount. So this main method is a special one. Every Java application needs one main method that looks exactly like this, and we'll talk about what all the pieces of this mean. But these words public, static, void, these are all reserved words in Java, which is like a word in Java's dictionary. And again, notice we've got some blank spaces between sections of code and indentation. These are all examples of white space to make our code more readable. And in keeping with our practice of doing incremental development, we'll save those changes, compile them, and we can try to run this. But when we do, nothing happens. What we have here in step 11 represents the simplest bare bones shell for an empty Java application. And you might want to remember this step 11 in Hello World, because we're going to set up a template in an upcoming assignment so that we don't have to write all this code from scratch each time. Okay, so next in step 12, we're going to add an empty shell for a second method, and we're going to call that one print greeting. So what we'll do is this time we'll do private static void print greeting, and notice we've got lowercase p and an uppercase g, open and close parentheses, open curly brace, close curly brace. So this is like the outline for a second method. Main was the first method, and all of these are inside this outer class container, Hello World. And then inside the parentheses for print greeting, we'll put what are called the parameters of the method. So we'll say string first name, string last name. And what we've done here is we've created the interface to a method. An interface is kind of like an outline. If this is a method, it's going to receive from the outside world a string called first name and a string called last name, and it's going to do something. In this case, presumably it's going to print a greeting. Notice that this is empty. It's not doing anything yet, but this is like the outer shell that we'll put some further statements into. This public and this private are called access specifiers, and they control who can see and execute these methods. And this string first name and string last name, string is just Java's name for some text within double quotes. So now we've got 2 methods inside our class. We'll save these changes, compile them to make sure we haven't made any errors. And again, we could try to run this, but it's not going to do anything quite yet. So this is what your code should look like in step 12. So this is our starting point for step 13. And what we have now is basically like the outline of our program. You can think of this class as being the main topic, and this main method and this print greeting method are like the 2 top-level subsections. So this is like an outline for our program. It's not doing anything yet. So what we'll do now is inside the print greeting, again, a method is a container. So inside any pair of braces, we're going to always indent by that consistent 4 spaces, and we're going to print something out. So the print command in Java is called system.out.println, and it's got a semicolon at the end. That's called a terminator, and it basically indicates that this is one complete executable Java statement. And notice that in the system.out.println, that's a lowercase l, not a 1, or not an uppercase L. So inside parentheses here, we'll put some string that we want to have printed out. So we want to print hello plus first name plus, and we're going to break this up over a couple of lines, and then a space inside of double quotes, plus last name plus comma space, good to have you in class. So what we've done here is we've provided one big long string to the system.out.println to be printed, but that string itself is comprised of 5 smaller strings or substrings that are spliced together using the plus sign, or here the string concatenation operator. So we're just pasting smaller strings together into one larger string. And again, notice we've split the string over multiple lines for readability. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smaller substrings. So the first name and the last name are called variables. This is some program data that might be changing. And this text in green, these are called string literals, which are literally of the value that's shown. Now take a look at this overall program at this point. Notice the distinct colorization of the sections. Comments are in orange. Our program is the stuff in black. The purple is reserved words. The green are string text. So this is what your code should look like in step 13. So we'll save it, compile it, compiles cleanly, so we're good to go for step 13. So now we're in step 14, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put an additional line of blank space there so that my line numbers line up with what you see in the document, and I'll save that change. And so what we want to do now is we want to compile it, try to run it, and see what happens. Nothing happens. Does that surprise you? Well, it turns out that we've written this print greeting method to print a friendly greeting provided a first name and a last name, but inside our main method, which is where program execution always begins, we haven't told our program to actually call this. So what we'll do inside main, we'll indent by that consistent amount, in our case 4 spaces, and I'll make a method call, print greeting, open and close parentheses, terminating semicolon, and then my print greeting is expecting a string for the first name and a string for the last name, so I'll provide 2 strings, which is just the Java word for any amount of string inside double quotes, which is just Java's word for any amount of text inside double quotes. So I'll give it my first name and my last name. Not spelling very well today. And of course, when you do this program, I want you to use your first and last name. So we'll save it, compile it, and execute it. And if all went well, you should see something like this appear in your message window. If you do, congratulations. You've just written and executed your first Java program. So now that we've got a working piece of Java code, there's a few things I want you to do. First and foremost, make sure to save this file and turn in for the assignment the file hello world with your initials.java. This is the source code file. This is what I want you to turn in. Do not turn in the .class file. This is a byproduct of compilation. Turn in the .java file instead. There should be an area in the upper right of the assignment page in Canvas, so go ahead and get that turned in. Secondly, now that we've got a working piece of code, we've got a starting point that we can base future programs off of. We've got a known working starting point. And finally, in step 15, there's about 7 or 8 experiments I want you to try. For example, intentionally introduce a mistake into your program, such as taking away a semicolon, save it, try to compile it, and observe the errors that each of these intentional errors cause. Because you know where the error is, you can easily fix it, recompile it, and restore it to its working state. But go ahead and do all those experiments. You don't have to turn anything in, but I want you to start using this working code as a starting point to play with the language. This is how you come to learn a language well, by experimenting with it. Make some mistakes, learn what the errors are, fix them, and you add to your experience bank. Okay? Go ahead. You aren't going to break Java or JGrasp. All that's going to happen is the compiler is going to complain to you. So make sure you do those experiments. But at this point, you've got a working piece of Java code to start from. Okay, that's it for this assignment.